What's up, cinephiles? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be talking about a new Netflix film called The White Tiger, directed by Ramin. This is based on the novel of the same name, an award-winning and best-selling novel by Arvind Adiga, and it talks about the Indian caste system, a thing that is very much abolished in the past, but remnants of it remain to be practiced into today's culture. Though the setting of this movie is around 2007 to 2012, so I am not entirely sure on the prevalence of this culture. Regardless, this is such an eye-opener movie for me. This movie is still a pressing issue that needs to be addressed. And before I continue with this review, why don't you guys show your support to the channel by hitting that like button and subscribing to us for weekly reviews of movies and TV shows. Now, back to the Indian caste system. If you're not aware, this is a system that categorizes Hindus upon birth, defining their place in the society. Like, it's a predefined path that dictates what type of jobs that they should take and the type of person that they should marry. The movie and the novel itself can be very much retitled to the rooster coop because this is the metaphor that's being used for all the Indian servants. Like, they are just waiting to be slaughtered. They know it, but they're still too timid to act on it. And this is very much the society where our main protagonist belongs to. Our main protagonist here is Balram, played by Adarsh Gourav. So this will be his darkly humorous rise to a successful entrepreneur on Bangalore, or what we call the Silicon Valley of India. There's this thing called the white tiger, this once in a generation animal, like another metaphor that is used by the movie. He thinks of himself as that kind of animal that he needs to claw his way out of the rooster coop, and from there he will do whatever it takes to change his destiny. It's about creating your own fate, as what the poster said. Because when you look at it, the character of Balram, given more education and opportunities, he can pretty much run India because he's clearly a smart and intelligent guy. But because Balram is born on what we call the dark side of India, the opportunities are pretty much limited. So there will be an evolution to this character, which is mostly shaped by the cynical perspective that he got from his upbringing, and from there he will do a lot of morally questionable decisions to advance his career. In many ways, this is a story of a man whose innocence is lost and corrupted, of how he deprograms himself from that initial mindset that he got, and later on he will learn the hard way that even if he is a loyal servant, loyalty does not necessarily beget kindness in this world. So this will be a dark, satirical, and some sort of a revenge tale. You already know what his outcome will be. He will be this successful entrepreneur. So from an audience perspective, it's pretty much interesting on how you understand his trajectory from point A to point B. This character will grow to be an anti-hero, but what's wonderful in this movie and also in the novel is that the characters here fall in this gray area. Like, bad characters are not bad by nature. Like, they have certain reasons for doing the things that they did, and good characters does not necessarily stay good in the attempt of pursuing their goals in life. The movie never justifies any of these actions. It only gives you enough reasons on why they did that. And the protagonist very much says in the beginning of the movie to hold off any judgment until he has fully told his glorious tale. Because when you put yourself to the shoes of this protagonist, you yourself will be questioning whether you will do the same things that he did here. And I know this is such a dark thing to say, but I would have probably done the same. Throughout the film, there's a duality to this complex character. He can be sheepish and he can be subservient and meek, like a good servant. At the same time, there's a raging jealousy inside of him, so he will do whatever it takes, whatever lengths it requires to be that prized white tiger that he believes himself to be. He can be a victim to others' cruelty, but at the same time, he can be cold and calculating and even cruel at times. And this is a role that is pretty much a make or break depending on the performance of the actor. And I have to say that Adarsh Gourav, I think this is film debut. This is a sensational performance for me. He imbibes both the lightness and the dark side of Balram. Because as I've said, this character is fiercely smart, and he can be jealous and vengeful at the same time. And the way he imbibed this character from his very little inflections on his posture, very much encapsulating the servant that's been molded into his character. And at the same time, the movie invites us to root for this character, that I eventually want this character to succeed because he represents the voice of the unheard masses from the dark side of India. So you want these underdogs to succeed. Now, as a social commentary, this movie is pretty much an antithesis to the Slumdog Millionaire, that Academy Award-winning Best Picture, because that movie has a fairy tale ending, a wish fulfillment type of scenario, and the movie addresses that. There's a line that mentioned by Balram here that don't ever think for a second that there's a million rupee game show that you can win to get out of the rooster coop. He has grown this cynical point of view that the only way for a poor to get rich is through either crime or politics. The odds of you winning on a game show versus you getting rich through crime and politics, you really have stronger odds on the latter when you come to think of it. So yeah, it kind of works as a direct rebuttal, and the direction here of Ramin Bahrani is very confrontational because this movie is so determined to expose the complex and murderous system of oppression that India has, and to attack this material with blunt force seems to be the necessary treatment for this subject matter. It can get preachy at times, and when it comes to spoon-feeding the message, sometimes that commentary becomes dull. But I think director Bahrani here retained the same wisdom that Adiga's novel has, and pretty much capturing the voice of those unspoken people from the dark side of India, that these people are not just weaklings, that they have the capacity to do vile things as well. And when it comes to the cinematography, I love the visual style here. It takes you to many places, from the grandest hotels in New Delhi to the dingy basement rooms. It's not glamorized, it's not perceived as an exotic tourist destination, and then infuse that with the lively hip-hop soundtrack to make the pacing more brisk and frenetic. I think this movie is captivating. Another paradox that I would like to talk about is the master and servant relationship here that's posed in the movie. There's a line in the movie, I believe it's also included in the trailer, where Balram mentioned something like, do we loathe our masters behind this facade of love, or do we love them behind this facade of loathing? And that is something that I would like to touch, because in here, Balram's livelihood is dependent on his capacity to serve and be loyal to his masters, but at the same time, there's also jealousy that he wants to be someone like them. So there's a complex relationship here, especially also when it comes to the masters. Ashok and Pinky Madam, played by Rajkummar Rao and Priyanka Chopra Jonas, they want to treat Balram here with respect and dignity, but you know, they can be condescending at times too, and you know, they mostly do it so they can feel better about themselves, so they can call themselves as a modern couple. But you know, when push comes to shove, as what we see in this movie, they quickly revert back to the stereotype. So the movie poses a lot of ironies that it's actually disturbing when you look at it. There's a universality on the message of inequality that is found here. The way of crime and politics is not only particular to India, that is something that you can find on other countries. This is the key element to have this movie speak to an international audience, because everywhere around the world, poverty exists, and when poverty exists, there are a lot of people who want to change their status quo. And in the end, this movie really offers no easy answers, because it's all about answering the question of how much is your freedom worth, and what are the lengths that you will do to be a self-made man like Balram does here. Actually, after watching the movie, I felt like I was given a problem that I can't solve, because there are some characters here in the movie who try to combat the system. They have good intentions, but sometimes it's not enough to derail a whole system that's already ingrained on the culture several years. So that is the sad truth here. And when it comes to the overall message of this movie, this can be polarizing, because the last thing that I want people to take away from this movie is to follow the path that Balram did here. But you know, just to end things on a positive note, it's all about creating your fate. Whether it's good or bad, whether you will step people along the way, that will depend on you. Either way, you have to do something that you can live by yourself at the end of it. Because this movie is all about a call to action to earn your place on the world. The existence of these so-called white tigers might be scarce, but there are a lot of people below the poverty line who are revolting against the capitalists of the world. These capitalists should start to fear for themselves. And this movie even have the guts to say that, coming from the words of Balram, that the white people are so yesterday, the future is about brown and yellow people. And in a way, it's kind of raising a middle finger to this former colonialist of the early world, like, we are now replacing your roles. History is now being reversed. So you have to watch your back. So that's how I see it. This is a type of movie that those who are in power will be afraid after watching this movie. So yeah, if I have any qualms about this movie, it has something to do with the story structure. The film kind of loses its momentum in the middle part, and with all this spoon feeding of messages, that I think that the movie could have used more subtlety and be more coy on its plot beats. Anyway, overall this is a well-crafted crime thriller. I think this movie is funny and brutal and uncompromising. It has a lot of terrific performances, compelling characters, and a biting sense of identity that will sink into your core. I will give this movie a 4.5 out of 5 stars. If you want to watch something profound, go see this movie. And that's it for my review of The White Tiger, directed by Ramin Bahrani. Let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. Also, if you enjoyed watching this video, hit that like button. And as always, please subscribe to us for weekly content. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, see you on the next one.